Well, welcome to today's presentation, everyone. My name is Brian Chappell. I am Emagia's Director of Content Strategy and the host of the AI for Finance podcast, which you can find on the Emagia website, as well as Spotify and YouTube. Today, we're lucky to be joined by our colleagues and new partners at Avalara to present Navigating the Future of E-Invoicing with AI. This is going to be a program about how agentic AI can turn, a wave of global compliance mandates, especially in Europe, into a lever for faster, cleaner, and more connected commerce. We're very excited to get the program started, but first we're going to go ahead and go through our program. Let's start our slideshow here. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about who we are at Emagia. We are a provider of world-class order-to-cash solutions backed by AI native autonomous finance technology. We'll also be talking a little bit about Avalara's background as experts in tax compliance and e-invoicing. Of course, we'll get into a background today about what e-invoicing actually is, what it represents in the current state of global commerce. We will talk about the global footprint of e-invoicing. There's a lot of changes going on right now as far as regulation and compliance needs for all senior executives, as you know. That's why you're here. So we'll talk about those upcoming mandates. We'll also talk about AI in practice in the area of order to cash and e-invoicing, and how these two can be married together, and how the partnership with Emagia and Avalara that we announced in May is there to sort of take care of this on one unified platform. So hence the better together part. Of course, we'll be doing a question and answer period at the end of the program. So if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat or the Q&A portion. We will try to get to as many as we can. If we cannot get to your question, we'll go ahead and try to follow up one-on-one after the program. So you get all the information that you need. That said, I want to move on and just talk to our speakers. They are obviously the main event here. So today from Emagia, we have my colleague Raghav Shankar. He will be discussing things from the order to cash side of the business. He is our Senior Director of Order to Cash and E-Invoicing Solutions and Autonomous Finance Technologies. We also have Lynn Masai-Koopman. She is a Senior E-Invoicing Executive with Avalara. She will be, spending time talking about their side of the business. Previously, she worked at EdCom in Valencia. And congratulations on that World Cup.
Thank you.
And
Excellent.
without further ado, I think we should just get on to the main presentation. Raghav, if you would, can you say a few words just for the sake of credibility and background information on Emagia and what we do as an organization?
Oh yeah, thanks, Brian. Thanks everyone. Yeah. So about Emagia, so it's just an autonomous order to cash platform, and we are in Emagia is in the business from almost 20 plus years. We have a presence across 90 countries, deliver 25 languages. So some of the major recognitions we have from the analyst list, like Gartner has recognized us as a visionary in the order to cash space. Also, we got some kind of a recognition from the IDC and Average Group as a leader in the autonomous order to cash. So our customer base is across the globe. You can see some of the main customers are Streetful, Sequence, the Honest. These are all some of the major customers we deliver across the globe. And we also affiliated with various technology partners and the industry affiliations like SAP, Oracle, and the Credit Safe and Dun & Bradstreet. So we also have Avalara is our the partner, as well as we also partner with some of the leading BPO and KPO firms like the WNS, Tech Mahindra, and Deloitte. These are all our customer base. But what actually we do in the order to cash space, I'm going to talk in the next slide. From there, I think the compliance is in the other part of the operations. We will talk. Lynn will talk about more on that front. Let me quickly give all of you what we do and how the compliance is important while doing an order to cash operations, or when a global customer is delivering the order to cash operations. So the compliance is critical, which we are going to talk. So in this slide, I'm just going to talk about more about what we deliver. We deliver from order to cash collections. Like first piece is order management. You see there is a Gia, that is our Gia Copilot, and Gia Copilot is embedded into across all our modules. Like you have order management, credit management, e-invoicing, and live reporting is one of the component we have embedded in this order to cash live in the process. Plus collections, dispute and deductions, cash applications, and cash customer portal is the standard the product we deliver to the customers as part of order to cash operations. So this a brief about Emagia and what we deliver to the global customers. And in this order to cash space, how e-invoicing and live reporting, how agentic AI can improve the compliance part of it and improve the cash collections and etc. We will just give that slot in that dot in the next few slides. With that, I will hand over to my colleague Lynn. Lynn, can you please take it up to the global mandate and the compliance part? Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Raghav, and thank you, Brian, for the introduction. And hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. So as mentioned, my name is Emagia Avalara. I'm part of Avalara's dedicated e-invoicing and live reporting team. And really my role today is to really show you how e-invoicing is impacting the companies all around the world, basically, because we understand it's increasingly complex also to understand and to get your heads around it. So really we aim to try to make it as simple as possible. But of course, there are some things to consider to make it a workable roadmap for everyone. So maybe just a quick overview of who we are. So Avalara has been helping businesses with their tax compliance needs for over 20 years. And we have offices around multiple regions, of course. So we support customers not only with the US tax compliance, but also with their international obligations as well. So if we look at the numbers, we've been in operation since 2004. We've made around 54 billion API calls for AvaTax, and we serve more than 43,000 customers in over 75 countries. Why this matters for today really is because Avalara was created to alleviate the burden of compliance. So e-invoicing sits inside basically 2 decades of global compliance infrastructure, all ready to help support our customers with their compliance needs all around the world. Now, what we want to focus on, of course, e-invoicing is just one part of the full compliance map. And also you will see today we're going to focus specifically on that because of the different mandates that are coming, right? But country coverage is, of course, one of the things also to consider. And I'll deep dive into that a bit more, but just here to show you like how this may impact as well your purchase side and your sales side as well. Really, the big idea of this slide is a shift in what e-invoicing actually is, because as Belentis, and I will also mention Belentis report, which was published in June this year, mentioned it, electronic invoices is not longer merely a compliance initiative. It is becoming a digital backbone of modern business transactions and really a key building block of integrated digital trade. And that's the real shift, right? So the invoice is becoming the data spine for the entire trade cycle. And that's exactly also how Avalara is built to fit within that transaction, right? So on the sales side, order to cash, and also the purchase side, procurement to pay. We'll focus more today on the order to cash side, also with the partnership that we have with Emagia. But really, what we want to show you is also how this can be run with the AI-powered workflow. So really focusing also on how this could be automated even more with this agentic AI. Now, as mentioned, that roadmap is also, of course, important, and the country coverage. It's naturally one of the first things companies look at whenever they're evaluating an e-invoicing solution. And there are really two dimensions to it, right? So one of them would be forward-looking mandates that are still to come. So any country that has mentioned that they're planning on introducing e-invoicing in the next years. They may have already established how they want to do it, or maybe they are still considering how they want to approach that. And the other dimension would be the existing mandates that are already enforced today. So some countries have been using e-invoicing for more than 15 years already, right? And you will see that there's also this shift. Okay, so let me just go back to this slide. So here, basically, what you will see, right, is that different countries basically adopt different e-invoicing mandates and frameworks and networks as well. So some clear through governments, like for instance, we could see countries like Italy, where you need to send the invoice first to the tax authority, the SDI. And some countries are adopting more of a public network or interoperability framework like PEPL or the DBN Alliance in the US. We'll deep dive a bit more, and we'll focus today on one country in particular. I'm not going to spoil it. You will see it in the next slides as well. But basically, the key takeaway at this stage is that the goal isn't just to solve one country. It's really to look for a partner that's scalable and also to commit it to this country coverage as you grow. So really also growing with your business. So what do we mean by e-invoicing, right? I know I've been mentioning it already, but just to clarify and to level set as well, so we're all on the same page, because e-invoicing can mean different things to different people. So let's start with the basics. What we actually mean by an e-invoice at its simplest is that an e-invoice is an invoice that is issued, transmitted, and received in a structured, machine-readable data format. So it's not a PDF. It's not a Word document or an Excel that we're able to send over email, right? It's really looking at this structured format, which could be in a standard like XML, UBL, which is fully machine readable and real foundation for this end-to-end automation. Now, some countries are still adopting something which we call a hybrid format, which you see in the middle, basically, which is a PDF A3 with an XML embedded. Some countries like Germany, who are now starting in January also with the order to cash or AR e-invoicing, also allow for this hybrid format, right? And you will see a lot of companies are also using this, which is called the Zuckford format, which is still a human readable PDF on the surface, but has this structured data underneath. So both people and systems can read it. In practice, however, we're seeing that a lot of countries are adopting the fully structured format, right? So either in this XML, JSON, UBL, or PEPL format. And that raises the obvious question. Once a government decides invoices have to be structured, how does it actually go to the customer, right? Because now we have this structured format. How can I actually transmit it to my customer? And that's exactly something that varies country by country, and exactly why we're headed next. So if we take a look at this, I know like there are a lot of arrows going around, and I don't want to make it too complex, but really here what we can see is an evolution, right? So as mentioned, e-invoicing has been around for quite a while, which means that some countries have adopted a different model than what you're seeing countries are adopting today. There is a trend, right? So we're seeing countries are more and more adopting what we see as the last one, which is the decentralized C2C model. C2C stands for continuous transaction control, basically where the government is still involved, but doesn't stop the invoice flow, right? So there's a parallel flow that goes to the tax authority while you're able to send the invoice to your customers. And this sending to the customers is also not done directly by the companies. So there would be agents or what we call providers that would enable that as well. So using a framework like Peppol, you would have an access point, or in France, what is called a PA, where you would be able to send the invoice to your customers in that way. Now, really where we can see this evolution is from the real-time reporting model. So countries like Hungary, for instance, they have this still today as well. So basically the invoice data goes through the authority shortly after issuance. So it's a bit more passive in that way. You would be still sending the invoice to your customers in parallel. And we see also the clearance model, right, where you would have to wait for the tax authority to approve the invoice before you can actually send it to your customer or buyer, right? Think like countries in Chile, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, where you first need to get a QR code before you can actually send it to your customer. And then there are models like the centralized model. So basically, the tax authority not only captures the invoice, but also allows for this distribution, right? So it also allows for this framework, basically, where the customers would receive the invoice directly by the tax authority. So it's coming from you, but the tax authority is not only validating, but also making sure it is available to the customer as well. And we're seeing this shift now. And the reason that we're seeing this shift towards the decentralized C2C and exchange model is mainly because of VIDA in Europe, right? But also in some other countries are also seeing the benefits of using this 5-corner model, is what we call it. And basically, we see a lot of countries also adopting this towards 2030, and countries that need to adopt to it. So if they have already implemented the invoicing in the past, you will also see this shift where they actually need to also enable this 5-corner model, where basically the invoice is not stopped in a parallel flow. So this, I know, like there are a lot of information here, but really what we see here is that the tax authority is a bit less on the, let's say, stopping side, but it's still very involved, of course, with the tax data side. Now here in terms of mandates, so how big and how fast is this really? So just to give you a number, right? If we look at the market in numbers and on a worldwide scale, around 300 billion invoices that are B2B are expected to be issued annually, of which approximately 87 billion, or 29%, are actually sent electronically, right? And this is going to increase. So this is today in 2026. And as you know, there are a lot of different mandates coming, and I will show you next also which ones would be next. But this is expected to increase a lot as well. Now, if we look at this map here, basically what we want to illustrate is this wave, right? So I mentioned the 2030 timeline, which is VIDA on the horizon, VAT in the digital age. But before VIDA, there are already countries that are adopting e-invoicing already. So if we look at this map here, we can see immediate exposure, like we can see in the beginning of this year in Q1, Belgium, Croatia, and Poland that have already gone live with e-invoicing, again, with different models. So Belgium using the interoperability through Peppol, Poland using the CZEF, the tax authority, where the invoice needs to go first before the customer can actually retrieve it from there. So different models, but as you can see, like slowly, it is really moving towards that mandatory e-invoicing and real-time reporting using that 5-corner model. And France is one of the first ones to apply this. So starting in September, which is 26 days from today, on the 1st of September, it will become mandatory for all companies that are established and registered in France to be able to receive electronic invoices. And then the issuance, so actually sending the invoice, will depend on the company threshold and the number of employees. But starting with the large and medium companies, they will be the first ones to actually have this mandate to send electronic invoices in this way. And this one is the one to watch, really. So there are a lot of companies that need to comply with this. And the next question, of course, might be, okay, so if the first ones are in September, what about the rest? So the rest still have 1 year. So it would be September 2027, where these companies will also need to send. So you would have all of the companies in France next year sending and receiving electronic invoices. Not only that, there's also this e-reporting part, but I will deep dive a bit on the next slide. But just for you to have this overview, right? If your company is in France, but also in other countries I'm just going to mention right now, it is good for you to start preparing. For France, get ready like right now. But if you have also exposure to countries like Germany, UAE, Slovakia, Spain, like please also consider this because these are also coming. So in January 2027, we have Germany, AR, so accounts receivable or to cash. The reason I didn't put AP here is because it's already mandatory from January 2025, right? So this will make it mandatory also for the issuing side. Again, with a threshold. So there's a threshold also for annual turnover. Depending on the company, you will need to comply with this as well. And the UAE is also adopting this 5-corner model. So similar to what we were showing first with the different frameworks, they're using the 5-corner model using the PEPL network. So the tax data would basically be something that is sent in parallel to the tax authority from that same invoice already. Other countries to look out for as well that have already announced e-invoicing are Ireland, starting in November 2028, and the UK. So these are also important markets where we see a lot of businesses have entities, and they probably need to also adopt e-invoicing in the near future. I'm going to just focus on one country just as an example, right? Because I think it's important because we still see a lot of differences and complexities. And I think France is one of the e-invoice mandates that is particularly complex. So I just want to go over it because there are different things to consider because it's not just e-invoicing, right? Here, what we can see really is that there are 3 obligations rolled into one. So as mentioned, it's not just e-invoicing, which is the structured invoice for your domestic B2B. So exchanged through these certified platforms, as mentioned, what is called the PA. The second part is the e-reporting. So this is for any transactions that falls outside of the domestic B2B. So think of your B2C sales, so business to customer, or any cross-border B2C. So I'm mainly focusing on the imports and exports that your company might have. These invoices are not sent in real time to the tax authority, really. It is more about reporting it on a periodic time. So like every 10 days, you would be sending that transaction data to the tax authority. And there's also another part, which is also different from what we're seeing in other countries, which is basically the payment reporting. So you also report payment data, which matters especially for services where French VAT becomes due on payment rather than on the invoice itself. So it depends a bit on the collection of VAT, basically, but it's also something to have in mind. And layered on top of that, just to make it even a bit more complete, is also the invoice lifecycle status. So France doesn't treat an invoice as something static, right? It tracks it as a living object through the series of statuses, right? And there are also some statuses that are mandatory or optional, depending also on how important this is for your business. But it is important to know that there are these lifecycle statuses like submitted, received, rejected, or refused, or even paid, right? So you could also indicate that this invoice has been paid. Others like approved or disputed could be optional, right? And what we really see is that there's a genuine shift. So really your AR and AP processes now have to keep that status live and not just send an invoice and move on, right? So it's really also looking at this life cycle status. And here's a practical point I would like to land because large French companies that have now the mandate to start issuing might also put a bit of pressure on the companies that are smaller and don't have the mandate yet, because they might also voluntarily also start issuing the invoices as well. Basically, the idea behind this, what we're seeing in practice, is they want to be able to automate the full flow. So instead of receiving the invoices still in parallel, like in PDF, as we were showing before, which are not e-invoices, they really want to also have the full automation for AP and AR. Now, let's talk a bit about AI. Raghav, I think I'm going to just hand it over to you a little bit so you can also let us know, like, how can companies actually improve these processes with AI?
Oh, yes, thanks, Lynn. Yeah, a lot of mandates and some are already go live in some countries. I'm sure it is multiple countries and difficult to manage. Humanly, it is not possible. So that's why we are all leveraging now AI or agentic AI. How can we ensure that we are compliant? So with that, I'm a bit of the previous slide. Yeah. Yeah. So in Emagia, so this is how we have integrated Avalara into all those compliances reporting are embedded into Emagia's autonomous order-to-cash platform. It's kind of a one platform where both compliances as well as cash collections can be improved. You can see this whatever ERPs the customers has. Considering all these challenges, we have come up with this kind of a solution for our global customers in partnership with Avalara. First, we take these invoices, multiple invoices or multiple platforms, ERPs. We take that invoices and our invoice agent that is basically embedded into Emagia's platform, which validates and schedule those invoices on a fixed timeline to the particular customers. And post that, our agentic invoice agent will understand whether it is complied or etc. And then it is basically doing all those compliance verifications and criteria and then post it to the Avalara AI engine to map it to the local mandatory or regulatory compliances. From there, it goes to the tax authority for approval or a review. So once that has been done, and it will come again to Avalara, and Avalara will tell us the approver approves the status of the invoices is approved or rejected. So it will come back to our platform, and that's how we ensures that global customers compliance needs are monitored or compliances are on a real-time basis. All the invoices are mapped to the relevant customers and whether those invoices are complied according to the country mandate, we will verify through the agent. So that's how bidirectional the process happenings at a time on a real-time basis, which we have seen at a real-time cash increase in their working capital requirement. So that's about the invoice to cash flow and a one connected flow. With that, I'm going to the next slide, how that value. Yeah, this is the, we call it as a two engines performing in a one integrated platform where Avalara will do all the mapping and jurisdictions related validations, and it auto map invoice data to the country specific format in our engine and then validate and transfer to the government. At the same time, Emagia will ensure that all these validated data are flowed to the order to cash cycles and then improves the working capital so most of the time what we have seen is the global customers are they think that the moment invoice is generated, that's end. So that's not the case, or a transmit. So actually the once invoice submitted, actually the compliance part will place into a role. And most of the time, if the compliances are not in a prescribed format, there is always a possibility that's delay in collecting the cash. That's how the real case or a use cases we're finding. Most of the time when we see the cash is locked, which is not collected from the customer, basically due to non-complied invoices or they don't have a trusted digital data. So that's where we are both Avalara and Emagia together and then identify manual invoice data to the electronic invoice data, and then trusted digital data on top of it. We bring all this agentic AI to ensure that the compliances and governance has been taken care of. Yeah. Yeah. With that, I will even Avalara has built the agentic AI, the chatbot kind of a thing. So they will that will assist customers with that. With more details, I think Lynn, you can go through with that, and we found more useful in our platform. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Raghav. I think as you're saying, right, like AI is something that is quite a trending topic. Like it's used quite a lot, but it's important also to understand what this actually means and how companies can benefit from it. And one thing that we have in common is that we use the word agentic. I just want to explain what it means, right? Because the word agentic gets also thrown a lot. So really what it means it's that it's not just AI, it's also really capable of achieving outcomes independently. So it describes something that has agency. So really the power to act. So unlike traditional AI that basically analyzes data or answers questions, agentic AI acts as the active agent. So it doesn't just tell you that a transaction has failed. It actually intercepts the issue, it diagnoses the root cause, and it also recommends the specific corrections to actually streamline the workflow for your AR process. But, and this is important, being agentic doesn't mean that we're taking a human out of the equation. You always remain fully in control. Think of it as incredibly smart co-pilot. So basically doing the heavy lifting of analysis, data mapping, but the final oversight and the final approval and governance would always stay within your hands. So the human would still have control, basically. And this is exactly also the shift Belentis identifies for the whole market, right? AI shifts e-invoicing from process automation to process intelligence. And I really like that quote because the biggest bottleneck in global e-invoicing isn't just sending the data, it's also managing the exceptions. So let me show you how this is with human in control, the agentic approach that actually solves everything regarding e-invoicing. Now you can see on this slide as well that there, of course, also AI applicable to the rest of the compliance features that companies need to deal with on a day-to-day basis. I'm just going to focus and zoom in a bit on how it can support for e-invoicing specifically. So basically, starting with proactive compliance validation. Before an invoice is ever submitted to a tax authority, our AI acts as a preemptive gatekeeper. So basically, it autonomously simulates mandate compliance. So if you're processing an invoice to France, for instance, the AI checks it against the complex destination rules. So it will flag any missing or incorrect identifier, and it warns you as well if something is going to cause a rejection before it actually causes it, right? So you wouldn't see the error. You would see AI already saying, hey, this might cause an error. So it's that previous step as well, which basically means that your team fixes it before it becomes a compliance failure instead of finding it out after the fact. Second, another thing to consider as well is that the AI also allows for intelligent error resolution. So when an invoice does throw a validation error because it hasn't identified any kind of missing things before, our AI error analyzer also intercepts it. This might be an error coming back from a tax authority, for instance, which is often, as you know, like an obscure code or an obscure XML error code, which isn't really friendly for most of the people reading it, right? So what it will do is basically translate the issue into plain English. It will categorize it by mandate and also suggest how to fix it, but also how to prevent it in the future. So it will also give you that capability to make sure that it doesn't happen again in the future. And another thing that we also see is very useful is the natural language data retrieval. So using AI-powered semantic search, your team can basically type anything in plain language and request something from the AI agent. For instance, show me all the invoices from my Danish partners that have a missing buyer VAT number in Q1 2026. And it will instantly pull the exact documents that you're requesting based on that search. So it will save you a lot of time, basically, as well. And it also really allows you to work in a more efficient manner. Now, I think, Raghav, with that, it just gives an overview on how AI can help companies. I think one of the next questions a lot of companies might have is how to start, right? Like where do we start preparing?
Yes, so it's preparing the future organizations in terms of compliances. Yes, that's compliances is not now not an option. It's a mandatory for every organization. So now, how I think I need to give some kind of a practical guide how we can make the organizations to be a, especially the compliance mandate, etc. So with that, go to the next. Yeah, yeah. So this is the practical roadmap. I'll just put in a it. It is my view, and in collaborations with the Avalara, we thought that this is how the organizations has to prepare for the future mandate. And one is you have to map your exposure. So you need to identify uh, the country where you have issuing, that is basically outbound and inbound invoices, and what is that country mandate scope, format, and clearance model. That you have to first identify as a preparatory. So first is that is the first step to map your exposure in terms of the regulatory compliance, the regulatory invoicing compliance is concerned. The next is assess your stack. So confirm whether your ERP has the ability to send an invoices or produce those invoices in a required format or a compliance standard. So that is another thing you need to assess your stack and then connect to the right channels. Once you assess that, whether it is connected to the right channels, you need to prepare it. Then if these two steps are followed, then it is coming to our connected to the autonomous order to cash platform. I'm talking about outbound side and similarly inbound side as well. So that platform in terms of, as I said, it is a two engine and one platform, where in Emagia also we pull those informations out of all those invoice data, and we say we validate with the country mandate, and invoice data will directly go into our cash application and collection engine. From there, it is basically a compliant invoice data or a trusted invoice data will be going into the credit collections and cash applications. From there, our agentic AI, or from there, our collections, cash application, credit agent assess when the invoices to be submitted to the Avalara AI engine, whether it is before that, whether it is invoices, it's a duplicate or any error is happened in the invoices, all those preliminary checks will be done before submitting to the Avalara for additional checks. So this is where we connect to the trusted invoice data will be connected to the autonomous order to cash platform. From there, we will push to the Avalara agentic AI, and where both Emagia and Avalara agentic way will handle the mapping of customer invoices, validations, and monitoring. So it's basically your AR team not to focus on the country, they just need to focus on the exceptions. So currently, what happens in the most of the AR team is focusing on the country mandates, rules, and regulations. So these kind of platforms will help you to focus only on the exceptional, or if there is a changes in the government mandate, that will flag, or agentic AI will, or agent will flag to you where there is a change in the mandate. So that's about the 4 practical roadmap as organizations you can prepare. But still, there are a lot of changes happening across this ecosystem. So with this, I'm handing over to the Lynn for the next.
Yeah, let me.
Yeah, I think it's a question and answer sessions. I believe. Let me ask you the questions, Lynn, since you have talked about a lot and you are into very closer to the country mandate and what is coming up and what is already live in France and other countries. So my first questions to you is, with real-time and near-time reporting mandate coming in more countries, how do you know we are staying compliant day to day, not just by filling times?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it is important not to chase, like, I know we were showing a lot of countries, but I think it's important not to chase mandates one country at a time. So really what we recommend is, of course, see where you have exposure, where are maybe companies or legal entities for your business in countries that might think about adopting e-invoicing. But really the idea is that you adopt a single global solution that basically treats this strategically. So this means that any real-time or near real-time mandates that are coming, because they're not going away, right? We're already seeing 60 plus countries that are moving in this direction or have already adopted it. Instead of solving them country by country, where you would create additional cost, risk, and technical debt, really focus on having this one connection to one platform that allows you to be future-proof instead of reinventing the wheel every time that a new country comes in. That's not something you want to do. So really have this solution that can also scale with you in the countries where you're present and have this single integration. So it will just allow basically for your data to flow and make sure you're compliant in the different countries.
Oh, yeah, that is more insightful, Lynn. Thank you for that explanations. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you, Raghav. I think maybe also a question for you, Raghav. Basically, how can companies improve? You already mentioned it a little bit, but I just want maybe you have an example, or maybe you have something just a bit more on insight and practical focus, how they can use AI to improve the quality of the data. Because I think that's also one of the questions we're getting a lot as well.
Yeah, so most of the time, as I said, that is the data quality, any automations, AI, agentic AI, so that the trusted data quality is important. So if that fails, then I think whatever automations we brings in, it's not able to generate a desired business outcome. So that's where we focus on. Once we get into the customer's AR data, our agentic data solutions will identify what are the duplicate invoices. Is the invoices having a required VAT number or a registration number? Is there any kind of a required country mandate field needs to be incorporated in the invoices? Those are all the things we do with the help of agents, with the agents. So that's where the trusted data or a compliant data is available to further automate. So once that is structured, then our predictability of cash, the data is clean, then we use the agents for timely chasing of customers, collecting the cash on time, improving or lowering the DSO or improving their cash flow. So that's where once we have a trusted data, and then we will move into the automations on those trusted data.
Feel free also to send the questions to us after this webinar. We're happy also to clarify. We understand sometimes it might be a bit sensitive to ask certain questions, so we're happy also to respond them offline.
Okay, well, thank you all for joining us today, and for any of you that didn't want to, ask questions on air, we understand, and we'll be glad to follow up with you all here as soon as possible by email. Our email contact information is on the screen. Also, we'll be following up and sending you a replay link to this event, so you'll be able to take care and see that. Just a big thanks to Lynn for joining us today, and of course Raghav for this first webinar since our partnership announcement. Very excited to bring this program to you around, and stay tuned for that announcement. At any rate, again, appreciate your time today and helping advance the conversation on AI for finance and compliance and e-invoicing. If you have any questions, please reach out. My name is Brian Chappell again, and thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.